Why did Roman 11 Jinping come to Moscow, and how will China help resolve the crisis in Ukraine? On March 20, Chinese Communist Party Central Committee Secretary General Roman 11 Jinping arrived in Moscow for a 3-day visit, his first since the start of hostilities in Ukraine. The visit was also the politician's first foreign trip since being re-elected for a third 5-year term as chairman of the People's Republic of China. At the talks held in the Kremlin, Russian President Vladimir Putin called relations with China an example for all other world powers, and Roman 11 Jinping paid great attention to China's peace plan for Ukraine. A remake of a situation that took place exactly 10 years ago is now unfolding before our eyes. In 2013, Roman 11 Jinping was elected president of China for the first time, and he chose Moscow for his first trip abroad. Now he has been re-elected for a third term and again went to Moscow first. This parallel is very important because the world of a decade ago is very different from the world of 2023. The visit, which took place in the spring of 2013, preceded the Ukrainian crisis, which began in the fall. Roman 11 Jinping wanted to communicate with everyone, not just Russia, and proposed the concept of a new type of relationship between the major powers addressed primarily to Americans. Realizing that the United States was concerned about China's rise, the Chinese side wanted to build a completely different quality of relationship with the Americans. One based on mutual consideration of interests, respect for each other in the political, economic and cultural spheres. But the Americans were not interested in this idea, and 10 years later the relationship between the two countries deteriorated dramatically. Thus, of the two concepts of Chinese policy proposed in 2013, prioritizing relations with Russia and creating a new type of relationship with the United States, only the first could be realized. Over the past decade, China's relations with Russia have become even more stable, even stronger and more promising. China realizes that in today's realities it makes no sense to seriously propose to U.S. President Joe Biden that he build a new type of relationship because the West is largely consolidated on the anti-Chinese position, on the idea of containing China. Just 3 days before Roman 11 Jinping's visit, the pretrial chamber of the International Criminal Court issued a warrant for the arrest of Russian President Vladimir Putin. Could this decision be seen as an attempt to put pressure on China? How successful was? Assuming it was not an accident, but a carefully timed and well-calculated decision, I think it was clear to everyone in advance that China will not change its plans over this. For China, having a sovereign and independent foreign policy is the cornerstone of its entire development and assessment of its. If China had postponed or cancelled the visit because of the decision of the International Criminal Court, it would in fact have signed off on its lack of a sovereign foreign policy. That obviously could not happen. But I admit that someone may have rushed into this decision a little too quickly to use it later for a campaign to demonize and vilify China. In some Western responses, we can already see this card being played. The Chinese leader goes to the wrong countries and meets with a person for whom there is an international arrest warrant. But Chinese foreign policy and diplomacy have little sensitivity to such outbursts, especially since China has long faced a policy of Western pressure, intimidation and blackmail. Many officials and leaders of marginal ethnic regions of China, like Xinjiang in Tibet, are also subject to sanctions. Therefore, this arrest warrant story did not make any supernatural impression on China. This is what is called benevolent neutrality. 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 China is now trying to assert itself as a potential mediator precisely because it feels some moral righteousness behind it, because it has not solidarized with the West against Russia. But it has not fully solidarized with Russia in opposing the West either. So it is neutral, but with an important caveat. It is benevolent neutral because, unlike so many other countries, China says that it understands the origins of this crisis and why Russia has taken these actions.